Welcome back to 843 TV. We're here now with Mr. Dean Roberts. He is the Executive Director of Encore Professionals Group. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So tell everybody, what is Encore Professional Group? What's their mission, their objective?
Well, let me just go back a few years and talk about a lady named Susan Harper, who was a resident of Bluffton at the time. And in her networking, she had made several observations locally. First, baby boomers like myself and others who moved down here for retirement realized you could only play so much golf and spend so much time on the beach. And they were looking for some way to be active in the community. Many of these people had risen very high in their positions in industry and had some certain special business and professional skills, and they were looking for something to do. Okay, she also recognized that there's a large nonprofit community down here, and while those nonprofits are basically in the business of fulfilling their mission, they occasionally have the need for special skills because of changes in their operating environment, changes in regulatory requirements, changes in funding issues, and that's been a big thing for local nonprofits around here. So she started Encore Professionals Group as a way to match these retirees who were looking for something to do that would keep them both occupied and challenged with the nonprofits that needed that kind of help. So
that was helpful from everybody's perspective.
Yes, it's a win-win. That's what we're looking for, is a win-win.
So you mentioned the nonprofits.
Yep.
So how does Encore Professional Group help the nonprofits in the community?
Well, I need to say a little bit about myself. As is obvious, I am a member of Rotary. I've been down here for 12 years now, and I was office manager. I've been office manager of the Bargain Box since 2005, so I'm very familiar with the local nonprofit community. And there are a bunch of very dedicated people who are doing very good work in the community, but they have very limited staff and resources to do it. They're running into situations where, funding is, as I mentioned, funding is a big issue. Federal and state funding is drying up. So those organizations that need that kind of funding are having to look elsewhere for funding. There are issues around labor law changes, and most of them employ people, and they are impacted by these labor law changes. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which was put in place at the time that the Enron fiasco happened, 3 years later also applied to nonprofits, which really increased their governance burden. So they need help. They need specific expertise in those kind of areas that the volunteers who work for them doing the basic work don't have. So basically we provide them with access to resources that they need to take care of basic professional and business type issues, mostly on a project basis, because that's the way they need to address them, is on a project basis. So we've done a number of projects with a number of nonprofits, and they have basically been around strategic type issues like, what do we need to do about our funding? What do we need to do about making ourselves more visible? Because there's another factor down here in that the nonprofit community is huge, and it's easy to get lost in the noise. We've had situations where you talk to people about CODA, somebody we did projects with. When we went out and talked to folks, we found out most people don't know the difference between CODA, CAPA, and Hope Haven.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of noise out there that these nonprofits have to deal with, and we try to help them do some of those kind of things as well.
It's good work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What a precious resource. Big businesses can hire big-time consultants, but you guys are those big-time consultants.
We are. And we've done a number of projects. We did a number of projects with the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Low Country, and they estimated that we did about $100,000 worth of work for them for free.
Wow,
Yeah,
big time.
make investigations, recommendations, things like that. So,
Tell me about how you serve retirees.
well, basically, as I said, I've been down here about 12 years, so I'm pretty much familiar with it. But we get a lot of people moving down here who've come down for vacation over the years. They know about vacation, but they don't really have a sense of the community. And what we try to do is help bring them into the community by identifying organizations they can work with and that can use their skills, and assigning them to projects that can utilize their skills. And one of our hopes is that after our project is over, they find a home down here where they want to continue to do volunteer work for those organizations as well. So, we're just trying to connect the newcomers, if you will, and I can call them that since I've been here 12 years, I guess, connect the newcomers with those organizations locally where there's some synergy and there can be an ongoing relationship.
I've had clients who have mentioned that too, because they make the same joke. You can only golf and play bridge and all that stuff for so long, and then they're sitting there twiddling their thumbs like, okay, give me something to do. And I always tell them, there's a ton of nonprofits out there, but I will definitely give them your name.
Good. And unfortunately, one of the challenges we tend to have is that, and I don't say this in a negative way, it's just the way things are, the nonprofits don't talk to each other very well either. And what we're trying to do with what we do is also generate some synergy among the nonprofits with some of the recommendations we make in terms of why don't you contact this organization and see if you can do some shared services in a particular area, or why don't you see if you can combine something as simple as combining your mailing lists, especially if you're not in competition with each other. If you're in a complementary type of service, that you have the opportunity to share some resource and share the work that needs to be done.
How long has your group been in existence, and what are some of the results y'all have achieved?
Well, 2013, we started January 2013. Unfortunately, Susan moved at the end of 2013 and asked me to take over as executive director. But we have done 11 projects with 8 different organizations to date. We did 8 last year, we've done 3 this year. Most of them have been with the Boys and Girls Club. We've provided IT recommendations for the Boys and Girls Club. We've provided IT recommendations for Bluffton Self-Help. We've provided help defining and making measurements for both the rec center and the Boys and Girls Clubs. We've helped with volunteer development. We've helped with volunteer development programs. So we've basically done 11 programs in the course of the time.
Well, thank you very much for being with us today,
you all.
and make sure that you come back for more 843 TV.